This is episode 73 of the Rhythm and Rhymes podcast. I'm your host, AJ Hughes, and I'm here with my co-host, Antonio Hughes. How are you doing, my brother? How's it going?
I'm doing pretty good. Can't complain. It's been a pretty good week out here. A little rainy to start. Didn't have school today, so I was just catching up on some rest. But birthday coming up, so hey.
Out of town, thugging with my rounds. I already know. I wanted to get into the Grammys. This is the second year we half care about the Grammys. Usually, I would like to say that they can't be the gatekeeper for good music, but every single year, new artists get revealed, new artists get nominated, and I felt like there was a couple interesting trends outside of America that were worth noting. I could run through a couple of them just to give you an idea of who got nominated. Like the two notable categories for African artists, the first being Best African Music Performance. You had Tomorrow by Yemi Alade, MMS by Asake and Wizkid, Sensational by Chris Brown, Davido, and Loj, Higher by Burna Boy, Love Me JJ by Thames. Best Global Album, Rema got nominated for Heist. Thames got nominated for Born in the Wild. She also got nominated for Best R&B Performance, I want to say. Oh, Best R&B Song for Burning, which is one of my favorites on that album. And she got a couple other nominations. Were any of these a surprise to you? Was anything missing off of this list for African artists where you're like, I thought that was going to get nominated, but okay?
I would maybe say whose album was that? I think Ashake's album definitely could have been on here. I think it was one of the better global albums from this year. And I also think that I think they did it right with having Heist on here for sure. But Ashake would probably be my first pick to be on here. And then there's probably some other ones that I'm missing, but that for sure.
Yeah, I checked the release date. So the deadline date for the Grammys was August 30th,
Hmm.
and that album released on August 9th,
Oh, okay.
which I find to be interesting. So you're right. I would have probably put that on there. Other than that, African performance, like African albums that came out during the time period for these Grammys, I feel like that would be the only one. Honestly, you could throw Ira Star in there. Like it would have been dope to see her get a nomination for a song or for an album, but that would be the only one I feel like got snubbed. But I think watching like these African artists start really moving with the labels is interesting, right? Like to see,
Mhm.
for example, just sample selection. So Rema just put out a clip. I don't know if you saw what he used a Sade sample over an Afrobeats track. Did you see that?
I didn't see that, no.
I'm gonna send it to you, but it's hard. And I was like, dang, imagine like a lot of the samples that they can use from like UK artists, American artists now in Afrobeats. I think that would be cool. Burna Boy has definitely got a ton of samples. I'm sure Wizkid has had access and stuff like that. But seeing like the newer crop get that type of production, I think is going to be really cool. And honestly, that's the only reason I think the Grammys are worth noting, because it does give them a level of visibility in the American market. And if you're visible in the American market, the American labels seem to want to push you more in other markets. So it is worth noting for artists who probably don't get the same type of promotion as artists here, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I do think it'll be interesting to see how they use those samples. I think there's so many that they could use. And I think there's also that rule of, I think it's about 50 years where stuff becomes open domain or everybody could use it. I don't know if that's the exact wording for it, but basically there's samples that you could use after a certain period of time where you won't get copyrighted for them. And it kind of goes over with each decade that turns over. People get kind of excited with what new music is going to come from it. So I think it'll be cool to see what happens in the next 5 years as far as what new songs people will be able to sample without having to get that sample clearance. And especially with the Afrobeats artists, because they have such interesting sounds. So they'll be able to really flip it in cool ways. But I did want to ask, with this specific category with the global album, did it include reggaeton albums too, or would that just be in the reggaeton categories?
Yes, I think it does. And I'm pretty sure Bad Bunny got nominated a couple of years ago. I could check that right now.
Okay.
But I feel like they use certain categories to highlight certain markets, right? Like I'm pretty
Mhm.
sure Tyler wasn't in Best Global Music Album. I think she was in Best Global Music Performance. So I feel like a lot of those new global categories are being used for African artists now, because I think, the label has a lot of influence. The labels have a lot of influence over how these get categorized and how the nominations go.
Mhm.
And so I feel like earlier when Latin music was like had popped, like the late 20 teens, you saw more of that, and now you're just seeing more African artists in that area. But let me check because I'm pretty sure Bad Bunny has been nominated.
Yeah, to me, it looked like a couple of these albums were reggaeton albums or had Spanish names, so I thought maybe they were. But also, I feel like there's some of these albums that came out in reggaeton that might have been able to be in there. Like maybe even this Luna by Feed was pretty good, or Fed. Sorry, I'm still messing up the name, but we'll get it one day. But I think that was one of those albums that might be able to be in there, even with the release date too. But yeah,
Yeah, so Bad Bunny got nominated in Musica Urbana album,
oh, okay.
which must be a Latin specific Grammy category. This year, oh yeah, it is. So this year, last Fed project was nominated, the one you were just speaking on.
Hmm.
Pharaoh Calipis. I don't know how to pronounce that. That's not a word. Rayo by J Balvin, ATTY Young Miko,
Yeah.
and then Nadie Sabe Lo Que Va a Pasar Mañana, Bad Bunny. Yes, I'm Dominican. Las Letras Ya No Importan by Residente. Residente. You heard that roll of the R. That is the current best musica urbana album category. But yeah, I don't know. That I don't want to spend too much time on this because, like I said, I really don't really care about the Grammys. But it's cool to see people that we listen to get nominated. Also, I thought was worth noting. I think Vibes Cartel is about to clean up in the best reggae album category, even though personally haven't listened to that project. Personally, for the amount of song, because I looked because I listened to a lot of the Vibes Cartel stuff that came on the last year, and I didn't remember this project that got nominated by him, but it was because it was an EP and it was only like 7 songs or 6 songs or something like that. It's called Party with Me. It's 8 songs in 20 minutes.
I feel like they mostly nominated him just because he got out, and it's like it's almost like that's one of them things that happened this year. Besides, like the Drake and Kendrick beef, Vibes Cartel got out of jail, so we might as well nominate him somewhere, bring him up here. Everybody gonna be like, "Oh shit, oh
Everybody gonna be
yeah,
hyped. Yeah, yeah. And you know what pisses me off is that the Shensia project is actually really good. That's one of my
yeah."
favorite albums of the year. So I hope, I want her to get it, but knowing what type of year it is, it doesn't look like it. That album was called Never Gets Late Here by Shensia. So, I hope that album wins, but vibes home. You know what I'm saying?
But how could you even
Vibes is home.
categorize that as an album? Too? It's only 6 songs, but whatever.
Exactly. 8 songs, 20 minutes is like, it's like a shower. It's,
I mean,
that's a,
that's a good
That's
analogy.
an extended shower for a man. For a man, that's an extended shower. You know what I'm saying? That's a lot. Anyway, let's get off the Grammys. I wanted to briefly mention independent music labels taking over, right? I read this article on Billboard. Shout out to y'all. You know what I'm saying? Giving me tons of information. And it was basically discussing the current global music market and how much of a share major labels had versus independent artists had. Right now, independent artists and labels control 46%, 46.7% of the global recorded music market. And in the US, they currently cover 35.7%. I thought that was interesting because it says that this number continues to grow, the independent artists and labels globally, and it's much larger, or it's a significant amount larger than the US, right? Because the US controls a lot of the distribution even for independent artists in America. So as new markets start to grow, a lot of those independent artists are taking like that market share initially because the major labels aren't there yet. um Markets that are growing currently at a high rate, higher than the US, you have Mexico, India, Brazil, China, and obviously Africa. And major labels and independent labels are both making their way into those. Like I know the UK is also been a growing market. Like I just listened to M Honcho. I don't know if you know who that is. He's a UK rapper, the dude
Mhm.
with the mask.
Yeah.
But he just signed the 10K projects, like for this last project, which is interesting. That's where Ice Spice is and Trippie Red was. So it's cool to see like our labels going and getting them and stuff like that. And obviously, like I just said, the major labels are making their way into these markets. I feel like we address this every couple of months, but reading these statistics and seeing how much is really available, also thinking about like these labels laying a ton of people off. Do you see the monopoly of major labels becoming more like, do you see it becoming more of a free market in the way that, like, because they're going to be like independent labels, independent artists, independent streamers around the world are going to become bigger power players, that the major labels aren't going to have as much leverage over the entire market as they have.
I think we already kind of see that, or we've been seeing that happen. I think when the internet really kickstarted and people were able to start like marketing themselves, labels started to see like cracks because you don't need a label as much as you used to get popping at this point in time, especially when you saw people like Russ and people like La Russell doing it, or you see even there's big artists like I wrote a couple down that I see like Freddie Gibbs, Joey Badass, even Big X the Plug right now, who are doing really well without a major label. And I think it's literally the factor of having streaming and then having so many different ways to put yourself in front of a camera. Like you even see people now going to streaming. Like I saw this little compilation video of every rapper from the 2016 XXL cypher. They've been up to Kai's stream. There's so many
Yeah,
different ways for people to put their faces in front of the world that you don't need a label as much. And I think that's why you see some of these labels consolidating and you see them, like you said, laying people off because they don't have as much, I guess, talent as they used to, or they're just not putting the right resources into their artists that are really good. Like we saw artists like Ari Lennox complaining about her label still, or there's different artists who are still dealing with these label issues, and more who you see who are becoming independent entities and then starting different things with smaller artists under them, like a Dreamville or different labels like that. And I just think that it's going to be really interesting to see how this continues to grow because everything comes in like phases.
I agree with you. I agree with everything you said. And I do think the biggest opportunity for a lot of the independents to take on market share or gain more leverage is just their ability to figure out how to spread their message most effectively, right? Like when you think about how major labels got how they got the advantage that they did is because they had the rights and then they also had the ability to distribute the music,
Yeah.
right? So they could distribute it through making vinyls and making CDs, and then it turned into streaming, and now they own part of the streaming platforms and stuff like that. And obviously, streaming is like the primary form of consumption for music, but you also think about song syncs. Song syncs one, and then two, like the discovery of this music, right? Especially independence. TikTok has been a big discovery tool. Social media has always been a big discovery tool. But I think you can start to see marketers and advertisers, one small person teams who are able to distribute music over social more effectively than a lot of these labels have been. As we've seen, like a lot of these labels don't really know how to market the music anymore. And like with the rise of, like you said, like Twitch streaming and then also other forms of like event marketing, I think those are going to be the new discovery tools of artists. And that's sort of the hypothesis behind what we're doing, right? Like creating a way to distribute music and put people on with different types of music. And so I see platforms like media platforms, event platforms, things of that nature, by really putting their flag in the ground and becoming like major players. I think that's where huge opportunity lies, right? Getting those little markets of independent artists. Dice, for example, we talked about Dice on here. That's an events marketing platform. If in 2026 Live Nation has to break up because the US considers them a monopoly, then other companies will be able to come in and throw events, and independent artists will probably lean towards platforms like Dice because they get a bigger share and there's less ticketing fees and stuff like that. So I do think there is a lot of opportunity, and it is cool to see how everybody has their own spin on it, and everybody's like making their bets and trying different things, right? That's what we're doing here, and with media, entertainment, education, events. That's the whole goal. So I don't know. The numbers are always cool to see when they're highlighted in reports and stuff like that.
Yeah, I also think it's kind of cool that specifically the countries that are in the emerging markets, I don't know if that was pointing to the emerging markets in like the world or if that was specifically in music, but three of those countries, China, Brazil, and India, I know are like economically growing really well too. So I think it's cool to see those parallels as well.
Yeah, yeah, 100%. Like when we talked about the amount of Africans that had access to free internet growing at a speed that was like you were seeing the same type of curve as streaming. It's the same thing, right? As more people in these emerging markets get access to internet and things become cheaper, technology becomes cheaper, they listen to music just like we listen to music, right? So those markets will just continue to grow as technology improves and as the economy improves.
Right. All right.
All right, new music. I want you to get into this Soul Burger by Ab Soul, and then I got a couple things I want to run through quickly. But right now, that was the highlight of the weekend. I listened to a little bit of it, but you know, you're our residential scaring the hoes,
What?
boom bap nigga rap song reporter. So get into it.
Oh, you want me to talk about the Absol project? I got you. So Absol, you know, he released Soul Burger this weekend, and I just want to say TDE has really been running 2024 top to bottom. I want to say thank you to Punch specifically for allowing the artist to drop. Since SZA dropped that last project, since we got that last great project from SZA, we have been getting nothing but smash after smash pause from TDE. It's been a really good ride so far. But this album specifically, I think that it's really interesting to see an artist be able to marry good raps with good beats. I think I always talk about how when Nas got there, everybody started talking about, oh, these beats sound a lot better and like the sound a lot better and it was more digestible. I feel like that's how it's been for Absol for the past 2 projects. If you want to call it scaring the hoes music, you could call it that. You know, we got some good female features on here. You know, we got Doechii, we got a Ty Dolla feature, we got Blast on here. I ain't never heard a bad Blast song. So this is an album I definitely think everybody should check out. I think this is a lot of like money music. West Coast has really been in my vibe this year. I feel like the Larry June project has came up a lot for me. This gave me a lot of that too. I think my favorite feature on here, JID, he's been one of my favorite artists for the past couple of years on Crazy.
That song was hard.
Yeah, that song was hard as hell. But I think overall my favorite songs are I, Myself, and Me with Doechii. I love that song as well. And then Don Julio 70. Just really love that vibe. So this was a good album to me. I think y'all should go check it out.
Don Julio, Actifulio.
Every time.
Question: do you think it's better than Herbert?
Mm.
Do you think it's better than Herbert, the last project?
I think I need to give it a couple more listens to be able to say that, but I think they're like neck and neck. I feel like it reminds me of how I felt about Ashake, the third Ashake project and the second Ashake project. Like they're really similar right now, and I just need to listen to them more. But this was a good project. I do feel like the beats were a little better on this one than they were on the last one, but maybe that's just me.
Yeah, they did feel a little like, from what I've heard off of this project versus the last one. The last one, there was some bops on that project, so I'm not trying to hate on it, but the vocals with the production, like you said, just married better on these than the last one. And the last, they weren't even bad. Like they were good. Do Better is one of my favorite songs ever. I ain't gonna lie.
The Wild Side.
But yeah, I'm gonna get The Wild Side. What?
The Wild Side. The Wild Side was on there with him, and I don't know if that was Kehlani or Jhené Aiko, but that song's really good too.
Wild Side. Oh, with Jhené.
Yeah.
Oh, there was so many. Yo, the intro, Message in a Bottle, No Report Card. Yeah, I'm gonna give this a listen. I'm gonna listen to Soul Burger. Like I said, what I've heard from it has been good. The JID song was crazy, but I haven't listened to the whole thing yet. There's too much music. Very quick, I want to get into 2 projects. JayO, one of my favorite UK artists. He just put out his project with Def Jam, Who's That? Little EP, you know what I'm saying? 18 minutes. I think is worth checking out. The singles that dropped prior with Popcorn, Fall in Love with Odile. And he dropped a couple other songs prior to that. Sun's Out came out before that. But yeah, 18 minutes, real quick listen, 7 songs, worth checking out. And then one of my favorite Afrobeats artists, Fave. Haven't heard her pronounce her name anywhere, so bear with me. You're in the feed fed category right now. Duddy Love. She put out an EP, 7 songs, 19 minutes. I thought it was interesting that she released this independent, and let me tell you why. Right, so she was initially signed to Mr. Eazy's Empower Africa, and I don't know any of the business, but I do find it interesting that Mr. Eazy starts his Rock Nation inspired music label as of like how he would sign and structure deals, right? He had Joe Boy, he had Fave or Fave on there, and then he was on there. Joe Boy left for Warner Records. Fave went independent, still hasn't signed with anybody, and then the COO of Empower Records just stepped down like a couple of days ago. I don't know. I just think all those things a little suspicious. A little suspicious to me. That's all I gotta say.
That sounds like something.
It do. And you know nothing about that label for real, so I can't really say much. But those are two artists that were like when Afrobeats was popping off or when I was catching on, those are two artists that caught my attention. And so the label must have done something right. Cause I heard both, Empty My Pocket, Classic Rhythm. Don't shout out Bad Bunny for that one. You know what I'm saying? But anyway, these two artists were really good, and now they're in other places. So I don't know. Music is good though. Dirty Love, go listen to that. Another one of my favorite Afro on my piano records, one of them by Major League DJs. They put out a song with Tion Wayne. I think Major League DJs does the commercial on my piano records better than anybody I've seen. Big Fat Machine, Stefflon Don, Fabio Foreign, Major League DJs, Tion Wayne. You know what I'm saying? These two songs are two of the better ones I've seen. And this record is definitely in my Serato. And finally, for me, Hello Habibi, Olamide is on a run. I don't know what he about to do. I don't know what's going on. This is the second song he done put out in the last month that I really messed with. He got Russ on the feature. He got Russ in the video. Russ said that he showed up in Lake Como with his whole crew like, yo, let's shoot today. Let's shoot. And this song is a banger. You heard this one?
I did hear this one. I did like the song overall, but for some reason, I gotta listen to it a couple more times because when I heard Russ come on, it wasn't like it didn't feel like he fit there. Like it was weird hearing his voice on that sound, and maybe that's just because I haven't heard him on much, I guess, Afrobeats type of music besides songs like maybe Don't Lie or there's some other stuff. But that I don't know. It just didn't. I wasn't when I heard him come on there. It was like to my ear, and that's just my ear. But I did think
Fair.
the song was good overall. I also heard the Fave project. I say Fave because I feel like Fave would be. That doesn't sound right to me. I feel like Fave doesn't sound right to me. But I heard this project as well. I thought it was good. I thought it sounded really good, and I'm definitely gonna check out that JayO project.
The reason I feel like it fit, Habibi is a Arabic word. And so basically throughout the Muslim countries that use Arabic, Russ is already really popular. You know what I'm saying? He already looks like, you know how he says he looks like Jesus and they say he looks Middle Eastern and all this jazz, the white Jesus, whatever. So it kind of fit for me because they use those words too. And to the Afrobeats thing, he's put out records with Afrobeats production going back to his first album. Yeah. But yeah, no, he's been putting out songs with that type of production for a while. And it got me thinking like it's not Afrobeats if a non-African artist uses African style production, right? What is it?
It would just be Afrobeats inspired at that point.
So is Chris Brown making Afrobeats inspired music or Afrobeats?
That's a good question. I feel like I don't know. Because I guess then they could just start grouping people. That's how they kind of group people into R&B that are really in Afrobeats. It's
Right.
Shit is genreless at this point. I guess it's more so. I think a lot of things. Then yeah, I would say Chris Brown is probably making Afrobeats inspired music because he's not traditionally in Afrobeats or of the land of people who created Afrobeats. I guess you could say that would probably be my definition.
Dang. Okay. All right. I'm gonna go with your definition for now. I like that. You also Ella May put out 3 songs. Did you hear those?
Yeah, those were good. I really just think that quality over quantity with her. She hasn't released a lot of music over her career, but I really think it points back to that La Russell thing that we were talking about. How he just puts out so much music that it's hard to get through any of it. So her putting out like good songs at the right time and the way she's done it, I like that.
Smooth. Yeah, I'm excited too. Hopefully, Jason Tatum let her out. You know what I'm saying? Free her. You know what I'm saying? Tell me about this Mac Ayers project. I didn't know you even released. Real Rhythm and Rhymes has a mission of spreading the Black music throughout the African diaspora. So if this sounds like a mission that's interesting to you, you should share it with your friends,
Okay. So Mac Ayers, he released a good project. This is going to be another short one like the LMA project. I really think that people have been saying stuff about at least R&B music where it's nobody's releasing good ballads anymore. Nobody's releasing those songs where it's guys crooning about their girl. Everything's toxic. If you want to hear some real like sad about a girl, I'm really in my feelings type of music, this is the project for you. But I feel like it really gave me like a Cleo Soul vibe. Like it really had some positive vibes on there, some just getting some stuff off of your chest, but it was really smooth. And I really just think that rap and R&B have been on one this year, because I feel like he's one of those like artists you're not thinking about that might drop a project in that R&B lane. And he's definitely one that's going to drop one of those. He's almost like an underground R&B artist to me. I feel like he's not as popular as some of the ones that we often talk about, and it was good to hear from him. I'd probably say my favorite songs on here are Holden and Somebody New. Other than that, like other projects I heard, Baby Tron dropped a project. Not much to say about that. Defensive Player of the Year was my favorite song. And then, yeah, that's really it for me, though.
Yo, I forgot to tell you. So I'm a fan of Pasalau. He reminds me of J Hus, right? The British African artists that sound like Negro spirituals or that sound like the ancestors. Pasalau got an album coming out. It comes out in 3 days. And the feature list is exactly who I wanted to see him with. Black Sharif, Byron Messiah,
Okay.
Odumodu Block. That's it. It's 11 songs. Okay. Just that's all he needs, bro. That's all he needs.
You think
yes.
So?
The only other people I would have liked to see him with, personally, it's that in between Caribbean African lane. I would, at some point, he just got out. So at some point, I want to see a Burna Boy feature. At some point, I want to see a Coffee feature. And then I would even like to see like a Popcorn, right? Like the way that they spit reminds me of dancehall, him and J Hus. So that would be my list: Burna Boy, Coffee, and Popcorn. But the album coming out soon. I just wanted to let you know.
Definitely excited for that one with Black Sharif. He's probably one of my favorite Afrobeats artists too. He's cold.
He's tough. What songs do I got for y'all this week? I'm gonna go with some. I think we should change all the charts of underground hip hop to be called Scaring the Hoes music. I think that's something worth petitioning. Hot Water Tank, Boldy James, Alchemist, Ice Cold Bishop. Don't know who he is, but he came on here spitting. So that's the first one. And then the second one, I'm gonna give y'all this Kelvin Momo track. Marie Fefa, PHEPHA. The Ketty Cruz remix by Kelvin Momo, Styx, and Bongo Maffin. When I was doing my deep dives into like house music from South Africa prior to Amapiano, Bongo Maffin was one of the biggest groups during the time period right before Amapiano. And they remixed this one, and it's a bop. The song is a bop. Those would be my two. Marie Fefa, and then Hot Water Tank, Boldy James, Alchemist, Ice Cold Bishop. Brah.
Okay, you're gonna have to send me that other one that wasn't the Boldy James Alchemist, because I was having a hard time understanding that name. You have to send me that cover. But my two songs for the week, I'm gonna go with. Okay, I'll go here. So Nudie is about to drop another project with Pierre on Friday. He dropped a single right now. Slimier One is my second favorite Nudie project behind Anyways. So this was a really good song. I feel like that project is probably gonna be better than the last two for me, at least, because like I said, Slimier One was one of my favorite projects. And then my second one is Pano Tonya by Kiz Daniel and Adekunle Gold. I think this came out Friday, but Kiz Daniel is also somebody who has one of my favorite Afrobeat songs of all time, Boys Are Bad. One of my favorites. Definitely would go check those two out. Pano Tonya, Kiz Daniel, Adekunle Gold, and right now Young Nudie, produced by Pierre.
I forgot about that Adekunle Gold song. I listened to it this morning. It was good. Listen, man. Episode 73. I think it's happening. I'm spending money, so I'm invested. You know what I'm saying? I'm excited. I'm back on the wheel. Stick with us, you know what I'm saying? 100 right around the corner. We're going to jump out of an airplane for 100. You guys stick with us. You know what I'm saying? We're going to do something crazy. R&R, we're going to get the drones and put R&R over the city of Jacksonville. That's what we finna do.
Nah, bro, I'm not gonna lie. Potting as you're like jumping out of a plane.
This is episode 100 of Real Rhythm and Bonds. 100%. We gotta do something crazy. I don't know what we're gonna do. I might do like a pop-up, step up. Remember Step Up in Step Up 3 in Miami when they was in Miami doing the trucks in the middle of the city, just jumping out, just
Yeah, that nigga Moose came in on the front.
Yo, what if I went and hired 10 niggas and did a dance mob in the middle of Jacksonville?
Yeah,
that might be hard.
Yeah,
that might be hard.
Bro, and you know what else might be hard? If we do a hot one set and we try to answer music questions while we eat hot wings and the thing gets hotter as we go.
That might be hard too. We're going to do something. We're going to brainstorm. So stick with us. You know what I'm saying? Go check out some old episodes. Go check out some old content. You want to learn about soca? It'll be in the description. You want to learn about I'm My Piano? It'll be there. You know what I'm saying? We got it all. So stick with us. We'll see y'all next week.